Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. In this lesson, we're going to speak about the fifth noun that is marfu', which is ismu kana. So now that we understood what nawasikh al-mubtada and the khabar is, which part of those four groups of nouns that are part of the nullifiers of the mubtada and the khabar, part of them is kana and its sisters. And likewise, you understood the concept of the fi'l al-naqis, and one of the two groups that is part of the fi'l al-naqis is kana and its sisters. Now we can finally understand what is ismu kana and what is ismu kada in the next lesson, inshallah, and then also what is khabru inna. So ismu kana is an ism that's marfu' المذكور بعد كان أو أخواتها, that's mentioned after kana or one of its sisters. So we have, for example, Muhammadun mudarrisun, which means Muhammad is a teacher. Muhammad is a teacher. The mubtada is Muhammad and the khabar is mudarris. When I add kana to the sentence, kana is a verb, and it means it or he was. It means it or he was. So kana Muhammadun mudarrisan means Muhammad was kana, a teacher. So Muhammad here is ismu kana. Why? Because it's an ism that's marfu', Muhammadun, and it's mentioned after kana. So it's ismu kana and it's marfu'. Very simple. Mudarrisan is the khabaru kana and it's mansub, and we're going to cover why that is. So that is ismu kana. It's very simple. Ismu kana will be mentioned after either kana or one of its sisters, and it's going to be marfu'. Now, what exactly is kana and its sisters? Kana wa akhawatuha. When they enter into a nominal sentence, two things will happen. The mubtada becomes ismu kana. The mubtada becomes ismu kana. So here, for example, Muhammad is not Muhammad anymore in the sentence. It's not the mubtada anymore in the sentence, but rather it's ismu kana. And then the khabar becomes mansub, and it's called khabaru kana, as we covered with mudarrisan. So that is the action that kana and its sisters does when they enter into a sentence. And their ism and khabar will follow their respective names. So ismu laysa, for example, when we cover the sisters of kana and sisters, of course, the mubtada is not going to be called ismu kana if the sister that's being used is laysa, for example. But anyhow, this will make more sense, inshallah, as we continue. So let's see an example for what we just covered here of the mubtada becoming ismu kana and the khabar becoming mansub and being called khabaru kana. Example: Muhammadun mudarrisun means Muhammad is a teacher. Kana Muhammadun mudarrisan. Kana is a fi'l naqis. A fi'l naqis is a verb that needs an ism and a khabar instead of needing just a fa'il. Muhammadun is ismu kana. Why? Because it's an ism that's marfu, that's mentioned after kana, and it's no more called the mubtada. It's no more called the mubtada. It's called ismu kana. Mudarrisan is no more called the khabar, but it's called khabaru kana, and it becomes mansub. And that's why kana and sisters are part of the nawasikh al-mubtada wal-khabar, that nullifies the mubtada and khabar. Why? Because it nullifies the original i'rab of the khabar from rafa' to nasb, as you can see here. So that is the action that kana and any of its sisters does. Now, what are the sisters of kana? Kana wa akhawatuha can be broken down into three different groups. Kana and its sisters can be broken down to three different groups depending on how they function. So we covered that there are 13 in total. Kana and its sisters are 13 in total. 8 of them ta'malu bila shart. 8 of these sisters, they will function without any condition. Ta'malu, they will function, they will be used bila shart, without any condition. Without any condition. These 8 are kana, laysa, sara, asbaha, adha, amsa, bata, dhalla. And we're going to cover the meaning of all of these. So these 8 here, they function without any condition, compared to these 2 other here. These other 4 here, ta'malu bishart and yasbiqaha nafyun. These 4 here that we're going to cover, ta'malu, they work, but they work with a shart, they work with condition. The condition is that yasbiqaha, they're preceded by nafyun, a negation. So these 4 here, for them to work, for them to actually function, quote unquote, they need to be preceded by a negation. The negation can be done with ma or with la, doesn't really matter, but it needs to be a negation. So ma fati'a, man fakka, ma zala, ma bariha. And we're also going to cover the meanings of these 4. So these 4 here, they need to be preceded by a negation like ma or la. So I could say yani la yanfakku or la yazalu, but I can also say with ma, yani it doesn't really matter which one it is, ma or la, it just needs to be negation. Then finally, the last one, which is only one, it works with the condition أن تسبق بما المصدرية الظرفية. The last one, which is Dama, the last sister of Kana, which is Dama, the verb Dama, which we're also going to cover its meaning. Its condition is that it must be preceded by something called ما المصدرية الظرفية. It must be preceded by the ma, which comes as مصدرية ظرفية, which is hard to explain here. I don't want to go into too much details because it would be a bit confusing. But pretty much what I want to say, to make it very simple, is that this last one here, which is Dama, it must be preceded by a ma, which is not ma al-nafi. It's not a ma which means no, but it's a ma which means something along the lines of a dharf. It has the meaning of a dharf, or a noun that indicates a time. So madama means pretty much as long. Madama means as long. And the ma here is coming to indicate the concept of time. It's coming to indicate the concept of time. And also it's coming to indicate the concept of a masdar. But again, this is more advanced grammar to fully explain, so I won't go into too much details. But pretty much this last one, which is dama, it needs to be preceded by the special ma, which indicates the type of a concept of time. And it's called ma al-masdariyatu dharfiyya. And inshallah, in later books of grammar, this can be further explained. So let's go and actually go over the meanings of each of these though. So let's start talking with the ones that ta'amalu bina shart, that function without any condition, that work without any condition, which are 8, kana, asbaha, till the end. So kana means here it was, kana Muhammadun mudallisan, Muhammad was a teacher. Asbaha, adha, amsa, dhalla, sara, all in this context mean the same thing. They mean here it became. So in this context, when we're talking about kana and its sisters, these group of verbs here, asbaha, adha, amsa, dhalla, and sara, will all mean the same thing. But asbaha, adha, amsa, and dhalla, these ones specifically, they can sometimes come without the meaning of here it became, or come with another meaning. You can see even call it its original meaning, quote unquote. But that original meaning, or when it comes with that other meaning, when any of these 4 right here come with their quote unquote original meaning, then they're not going to function like kana. They're not going to make an ism, and they're not going to take a khabar, but rather they're just going to take a fa'il. So asbaha, adha, amsa, dhalla do have an alternate meaning. Each and every single one of them have an alternate meaning. But when it comes to that alternate meaning, it's not going to be considered from the sisters of kana, so that's why they're not mentioning those meanings here. But later on, inshallah, in your further studies of grammar, you can further understand that these 4 here do have another meaning. So in this context, asbaha and all these other ones here, they all mean here it became. So asbaha al-'inamu nadijan, the grape became nadijan, it became ripe. Adha al-rajulu ghaniyan, the man became ghaniyan, became rich. Amsa al-waladu hazinan, the boy became hazinan, sad. Dhalla al-waladu jalisan, the boy became or was in a sense sitting. Sara means here it became. Sara rajulu ghaniyan, the man became rich. Bata means to spend the night. To spend the night, or he spent the night in a specific state. So bata al-harisu na'iman. Al-haris means the guard, so the guard spent the night na'iman, sleeping. So it means that you spend the night in a specific state, if you will. Laysa means here it is not. Laysa Muhammadun mudallisan. Muhammad is not a teacher. So these are the 5 that function without any condition. Let's go to those that تعمل بشرط أن يسبقها نفي, that function or that work with the condition that they be preceded by a negation, which are 4. You have ما زال, من فك, ما فتح, من برح. All of these mean the same thing, which is still continue. So ما زال means to still or to continue in a specific state, and likewise all the other 3. Now, the reason why is because these verbs, they need to be preceded by a negation, because on their own, they actually mean the opposite of this. So zana means for something to go away. Zana means for something to go away. So when I say ma zana, it means something did not go away. Yani something continued, something is still here. So that's why these need to be preceded by a negation, because on their own they actually mean the opposite. And that's why it's a bit funny to translate, because ma zala means to still, to continue, but originally ma zala, if you want to translate it verbatimly, ma zala means did not still remain, in a sense, because zala means for something to go away. So you can translate as something along the lines of yani the thing did not go away, yani. So it stayed. It stayed. So that's why it's translated as to still or to continue or so on and so forth. So anyhow, mazada means still continue, and likewise all the other ones. So you'll say, for example, mazada Muhammadun mudarrisan. Muhammad is still mudarrisan, a teacher. Man fakka, same thing. You can use these in the mudara also. So I can say la yanfakku al-matru nazilan. The rain is still coming down, nazilan, still coming down in the present tense. Because all these verbs can use them in the past tense to the present tense. Ma fati'a means the same thing. Ma fati'a al-fata taliban. The boy is still taliban, a student. Ma bariha, same thing. Ma bariha Muhammadun maridan. Muhammad is still maridan, is still sick. So these are the sisters of Kana. You have Kana wa khawatuha, which have those that function without a condition, ta'malu bila shart, which are 8, as you can see here. Then you have those that ta'malu bi shart and yasbiqa nafyun, that function with the condition that they be preceded by a negation, and we had these 4 here. Then you have this one, and tasbiqa bima masdariyatu dharfiyya, that has a condition that it be preceded by a specific type of ma, which is called ma and masdariyatu dharfiyya, which is madama, and madama means as long, as long. يعني ما دام محمد مريضا, as long as Muhammad stays sick, I will, I'm going to stay in his house, or whatever the case may be. So that's the meaning of ما دام. And ما مصدرية ظرفية means something on lines of indicating time. So I hope this is clear. The sisters of Kana and his sisters, inshallah, I hope was made clear in this video.